Welcome back to the next episode of Omen in Tech series. Today we have Xinran Waibel with me. I hope I am pronouncing your name correct. Welcome to the Big Data Show. Yeah.
Yeah, Anchor, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. To be honest, Anchor has been always very supportive for me as a content creator, and
Yeah.
he has taught me so many things about how to be a better creator. And I'm so excited to be here on the Big Data Show.
Yeah, right. So before starting this conversation, so let me open 1 second and confess one thing. So you are one of my favorite content creator that I started following recently on LinkedIn on Medium. So I am mesmerized by some of your articles on Medium, and we will try to talk about of those articles that you have written on Medium in this talk to help familiarize with your things. So Bevel is working as a senior data engineer at Netflix, and she has worked with Confluent, and she has near to 7 years of experience. And as some of you might be knowing Bevel because she writes a lot nowadays on LinkedIn and other things, and our posts are very informative. So let's hear from Bevel itself, herself. Bevel, will you please let us know about your initial career, from where you graduated, and how you transitioned from software engineering to data engineering, particularly in Netflix, and what was your work experience at Confluent, Target, and Netflix? Over to you, Bevel.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I always like to share about my experience becoming a data engineer because it wasn't a very smooth path. There's a lot of bumps in the way. There's a lot of doubts that am I a data engineer? What am I doing? Or how am I going down this path? And I personally enjoy sharing those journeys because I'm seeing so many people are also going through that phase, trying to, starting a career in data engineering. So yeah, let's talk about it. I personally grew up in China, and then I came to US for college. So I went to University of Minnesota, and initially I actually majored in mathematics. And because just growing up, I'm that girl who's super good at STEM, and I thought, okay, I'll just take advantage of my talent and then started from there. And in college, and then I took some computer science class and thought, oh, this is so much more fun than any of those statistics class I've taken. So I've decided that, hey, I want to be an engineer instead. And as I was in college, I'm still exploring what does being an engineer mean? What's a software engineer do? And then there's also so many kinds of different software engineers, right? And back at the time, I was mainly thinking about, oh, is that back end or front end? What does it even mean to be a software engineer? So I was lucky enough, I found this internship job that was near campus. And then we were doing some kind of consulting job for a local company. And as part of the job, actually, I started mostly doing kind of automated testing for a web application. I thought it was fun. And then I got to more exposure of what it's like being an engineer in real life, right? And at the same time, it was pure kind of coincidence. They need somebody to kind of help them manage the database where they store all this testing data, and then they need to move the data around between databases and places and build this reporting tool on top of it. And they just asked me, hey, we need something to do it. Do you want to work on it? And I was like, sure, I'll try it. At that point, I don't even know anything about database. And obviously, I don't even know how to spell SQL at that point. So I literally just started from zero and tried to learn relational database and learn how to write SQL at the job. And I realized, hey, I like this so much better than doing automated testing. And that really gives me the light of directions hey, this is something I want to do after I graduate. But that brings me another challenge. It's okay, if I want to work with database and SQL, what kind of job should I get? How do I get there, right? So as part of the internship, I was still in school, so I started taking more just database related class, and I enjoyed it so much. And also another thing that was really great was that there was a lead data engineer who worked at Target. So he came to teach this big data class on campus, and then that was also the first time he ever taught that class. So he was he was an instructor that invited to kind of bring more industry insight for the students, right? So I was so glad that I spot that class. And then I talked to him, asking him like, hey, I love working with data.
Mhm.
How can I build a career on top of it? And then he was the person who taught me about, hey, do you know that there's a role that's called data engineer?
Mhm.
And then he showed me all the things. Like I still remember, like he pulled out that book. It's called Streaming Architecture from his laptop, from his backpack, and told me like, hey, you should read about Kafka. I was like, okay, what is Kafka? And then that was like at the very starting point. It was like, oh my god, there's so many things I don't know. I need to learn. But honestly, it's so much to learn, because at that point, I felt like data engineering still wasn't a very well-defined field. There's not many resources out there, although we have more now. But back
Right.
then, the resources were even more scarce, right?
Right.
But I was really lucky that the teacher also became my mentor. So he
Mhm.
was the one kind of also, I was in his class, and even afterwards, when I was about to graduate, he referred me for this data engineer role at Target.
Mhm.
So that part, honestly, I'm very grateful to find a mentorship who can guide me on my kind of first step in the career, and then also help me find a job that's kind of exactly the type of data engineering work I enjoy doing. So that is kind of a short and long story of how I started in data engineer. And
Mhm.
my first full-time data engineering job at Target. And after that, um, at Target, it was in the Midwest of United States. So for those of you who don't know, it's like a majority of the engineering job is in the Bay Area. So at that
Mhm.
point, it's like, I want to explore more. It's like, hey, what is like to be a data engineer in other company? However, in the location I was in Minnesota,
Mhm.
there's not that many companies. There was at the Target, I think Best Buy, 3M. There's like
Mhm.
maybe I can count the options with my five fingers. So I
Mhm.
decided to move to the Bay Area, and that is where I landed my next job, which
Mhm.
was at Confluent.
Mhm.
We were still a startup before it went public, and after that, I went to Netflix, and I'm still working there right now.
Yeah, right. So you have worked with one of the two brilliant company with respect to data engineering, Netflix and Confluent. Confluents are the creator of Kafka that
Mm-hmm.
we use daily, right? So yeah, the rightly said. So there is very fine differences between software engineers and the data engineers. And when I started out, so I was working as a software engineer, but I was using all the tech stack that is mostly used in data engineering. And I was like, I was not knowing there's something called data engineering. And then I came to know, oh, I am working on some of the tech stacks which has some domain, and there is something job title data engineer,
Mm-hmm.
where I can go and just call as a data engineer. So that was also one of the introductions to me. So when I started it out, you got in love with SQL. When I started, I used to hate SQL. So I started working with one of the top recommendations company from India. So they were into financial solutions providers, and they were creating a stock recommendations pipeline for them. So I started writing pipeline for them, and there was very huge store procedures written in Microsoft SQL Server, and that I need to understand what is the meaning of all those SQLs, and I need
Mm-hmm.
to migrate into Spark and Hive. And the reading that store procedure, I recently graduated from one college, and I was like, oh, I used to love Python and Java, where I'm having this much of 200 and 500 line of store procedure. And that seems there was too much of subqueries and other things, so that seems daunting to me. And then I started loving it, and I said, hey, this is actually pretty cool. So yeah, so let's move to the next thing. So then, well, you know that I have messaged you regarding your Medium articles, right? So
Mm-hmm.
some few days back, I read about that articles, and there are very few in data engineering fields who really talks about qualities other than tech skills required for data engineering. So you are working at one of the uh, best team in the world, right? The data engineering team at Netflix, and we all aspire for that. But when I read your articles, you focus about other qualities like communications, soft skills, networking. So I will be just sharing my screen, and
Mm-hmm.
I will be showing your articles, and we will try to walk through those lessons that you have shared instead of
Yeah.
going into tech. So just give me 1 minute. Let me share my screen.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, please let me know if you are able to see my screens. Okay. I
Yep, I
hope
can
you.
see it.
Yeah. So, to those who don't know, so we will write the fantastic articles about data engineering and other aspects on Mediums, and I just love it. So he's one of my favorite writer on Medium. So
Thank you.
you can follow, yeah, you can follow her. So I just wait for her articles, and this is the one of my favorite articles that she has written. We will try to walk through each and every lessons. So let's start with the first lesson. Well, so the first lesson that you have mentioned is soft skills. So soft skills are as much as important as the technical skills. Will you like to walk through this particular thing? What does this actually mean?
Yeah, definitely. I want to give you like a little bit more background and context, like how I come to believe in that. So
Mm-hmm,
I will say, like early on in my career,
mm-hmm,
I definitely, over-index a lot more on technical skill
mm-hmm,
because I feel like even when I was in a student or was a junior engineer, it feels like technical skills is everything. And
mm-hmm,
then we spend so much time maybe in lead code so that we could get an interview. We
yeah,
spend so much time like learning all this technical skills like, hey, I need to learn Spark, I need to learn Scala, I need to learn about how to use Kafka, how to use Flink. And because that's the one thing you see when you are looking for a job, like all this technical requirement. You
right.
have to know distributed system, data modeling, all these things. And learning all those skills did help me get a job to get a job. However, as I start like doing more and more data engineering job and also grow more senior in my career, I
Mm-hmm,
start to see a lot more other requirements or qualities in engineers that really help get the job done and
mm-hmm,
help people teamwork together. That is
mm-hmm,
beyond technical skill. Because
mm-hmm,
a lot of data engineers I see the really good one have seen, they can code, they can implement things well. However, before you code, before you get into your head down into a solution, there's so much effort that we spend trying to understand the business problem, trying to
right,
collaborating with cross-functional team to
right.
narrow down requirements.
Mm-hmm,
And that process, I would say, is even, let's say, I gave you a data engineering problem, that is like more than 50% of the time where I'm
right.
spending
Mm-hmm,
before like I put my hands down implementing a solution to it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And that is why where I come to the conclusion that, you know, technical skills is important because you have to be able to code.
mm-hmm,
And but also at the same time, soft skills would also be important for you because if you can only code but not be able to work cross functionally, not being able to translate business problems into
mm-hmm,
data problem, you are
mm-hmm.
also stuck.
Yeah, right. Right. So you rightly mentioned about the communications. So apart from tech in soft skills about communications, teamwork, and navigating ambiguity, ownership, and saying no. These things are very much important. So that happened with me also when I started. So I was very much into writing codes, and I do love writing code. So
Mm-hmm.
I was also very good with the mathematics and other stuff. So and the thing is that so I do love. So I used to just wake up till 2 o'clock just to complete my code. So I used to write more number of unit tests, and I used to follow. So I started with the startup. So in a startup, there is no one, very few people to guide you, right? So
Yeah.
I started to focus on technical stuff, and I find difficult when it comes to this soft skills. That let's suppose some new member joins, and I could have communicated the problems, and I could have communicated my code, and I could have moved to another code base, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I was writing the code, and I was also handling the deployments and every other aspects, right? If there was some bug or any productions bug, I used to simply take the ownership and simply solve it. Instead, I was having people who were working with me. I could have communicated, and so I learned very late in my career that apart from all these technical skills, all these things that you have written in articles, it's very much important. Soft skills are must have things apart from. We can be very good with technical skills, but we are bad with software skills. I think we are just gone.
Yeah, I really love this example from your experience you're giving because at the end of the day, we're working with people, right? It's either
Right.
engineer or data engineer or non-engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not like doing the thing alone. Like we're
Right.
always trying to solve a bigger problem
Mm-hmm.
among all other teams together. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why all the soft skills it really boosts your productivity and also even a bigger team as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes like sometimes it's surprising to me how when you communicate one thing wrong and then that become a thing going forward and you just feels like when you work with another person there's always that nod there, right? And the things could become transactional. And that's also part of why I think like communication is important. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you collaborate well with another engineer on the same project? Can you talk? Can you effectively communicate with like maybe a non-engineer who don't have all this context, but then help them understand like what's your motivation of making something change and what's your motivation of maybe not saying no to a request that person is talking about, right? So
Yeah.
communication is kind of just everywhere.
Yeah, right, right. So, one of the questions that we generally get, let's move to the interview part. That many people actually find it more interesting. So, I don't find interview interesting. I love walking daily, and I just think that interview is just a part of life. But yeah, there are whenever I try searching or reading LinkedIn, and if there is something related to Netflix, it's like how to get a job in Netflix. What is the typical interview process for data engineer roles? Because data engineering teams is one of the most aspirational or inspiring teams in the world. So, what is the typical interview process looks like in Netflix for a data engineer?
Yeah, I'm happy to share about it, but also at the same time, I actually have a blog post talking about interviewing, and
Mm-hmm.
I wrote that about 2 years ago. One
Mm-hmm.
was interviewing at a bunch of tech companies in the Bay
Mm-hmm.
Area, and I
Mm-hmm.
would say that articles is like a more detailed version of what I'm going to talk about, but definitely check it out afterwards
Mm-hmm.
if you want to learn more about it. But I
Yeah.
would say, the data engineering interview at Netflix, I would say it's very similar to other tech companies in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's also there it always starts with like a technical screen. You know what I'm talking about? A lead code question,
Mm-hmm.
and then where they just kind of assess you, hey, can this person code?
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally I'm never a big fan of a lead code, but I just have to go through it pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then after that usually you would get probably a phone call with the hiring manager, try to
Mm-hmm.
understand, hey, what you're looking for, and also telling you more about the team, and then so that to see if there's a fit. If so, then we will move to the on-site round. So
Mm-hmm.
usually the on-site round is a combination of both technical round and also like more behavior round. So I'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about both. For the technical round, we'll ask you questions kind of around all the skills we need for a data engineer. For example, data modeling,
Mm-hmm.
SQL, analytical thinking, system
Mm-hmm.
design.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that technical round probably shouldn't be a surprise because those are pretty, I would say, typical interviewing rounds, even other companies as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also at the same time, one difference is that interviewing Netflix is different from other company is that Netflix cares a lot more about culture versus other
Mm-hmm.
company. We have even a culture memo that you can read
Mm-hmm.
online. That's anybody can read it,
Mm-hmm.
and then actually one half of the interview or the on-site interview will be focusing on like, is this person a good cultural fit with
Great.
us? For
Great.
example, like we will see like, could this person be a good team worker? Could this
Mm-hmm.
person work independently?
Mm-hmm.
Could this person also be potentially an informed captain on certain projects?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of kind of the cultural aspect or qualities we're looking for from you, and also it's also a part where we kind of assess your soft skills, right? Because we want
Right.
to find people who can work cross-functionally.
Mm.
So and then that's part I think a lot of times people maybe overlook when they're
Mm-hmm.
interviewing. It feels like, hey, I can do all these technical problems, but
Mhm.
we also focus on people who have a good soft skill and then are a good culture fit for Netflix.
Yeah, right. Rightly said, we will. So people do focus more on lead code and these things, and they think that once we are good with that, we will surely able to crack a good company. But they forget about the behavioral round and they forget about the soft skills. So uh, any good company will always opt for as much of soft skill, like your tech skills, right? So yeah, rightly mentioned. So let's move to the next part of our discussions here. So I've messaged you, right? The reason of this particular Women in Tech initiative.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, why I started this because when I was child, there was girls who were more, they were much brilliant. Yeah, they were very good with the mathematics and other stuff. But there was very less inspirations, right? There is very less inspirations to go on top and go for higher studies or go or be a leader. So right, so when you were growing up in China and when you moved to US, so how was your experience and how you inspired yourself, right? So what is the your motivation factor that inspired you to work with a company like Confluent and Netflix? And not only that, after you are working as a senior data engineer, you know the best teams in the world, still you are trying to write articles, you are trying to write a post on LinkedIn and trying to help someone and trying to create some meaningful conversations, right? So what actually motivates you and what actually keep you on the top? Will you please like to talk about it?
yeah. Definitely. I have to say, I think growing up, or even as I explore my professional career,
Hmm.
there's more bumps than smooth paths.
Hmm.
And I also talk about in career lessons in my blog post.
Hmm.
I'm constantly, kind of battling with the thought that am I good enough? It always feels
Yeah.
like I'll never be good enough.
Hmm.
And, like for me, being a woman in tech, yeah, there are definitely a lot of struggles. And even growing up as a girl in China, and I have a lot of similar experience that's similar to what you're describing. Like
Hmm.
for example, when I was in kind of middle school or high school, and all the top students who's really good at all the STEM major are actually girls.
Hmm.
And however, at the same time, you also hear adults telling you, it's like, hey, you are good now, but you won't be good in a couple of years because
Hmm.
men will always do better than you.
Hmm.
And it's like, while you are doing great, while you are enjoying it, and then you always hear all these voices that telling you that, hey, you can't do it, you are not made for this. So
Hmm.
I feel like growing up, and also pursuing my careers, is you're all as a woman, I always hear all those voices, and sometimes I feel like if I'm strong enough to ignore them, but sometimes when not feeling that great or something happened in my personal life or work life, those hits me harder.
Hmm.
So I feel like, growing up as a girl and also even building a career as a woman in tech is constantly trying to filter out those voices from outside that don't believe in me.
Hmm.
And that is hard for sure.
Right.
It is hard. I'm not telling you that, hey, it's easy, just like turn on your filter, don't listen to them. But
Hmm.
sometimes it can hit you harder than other time. And, like it's in China, it was like that. And after I came to college, I was telling you, I went to my first computer science class, and then it was a huge lecture room, and there was like maybe 100, 200 students in there. That was like one of the intro class,
Hmm.
and you see you are surrounded by men, and
Hmm.
then you know maybe it's like it's this very kind of subtle thing, but when you kind of work and study in an environment where you don't see other women, and it's how do I say it, you feel a little bit doubting yourself. It's like, hey, is this a right place for me? Like I definitely have doubt about it. It feels like, oh, it's just you just don't see other people with similar face.
Hmm.
And later on when I was in Target, I remember I went to this work meeting, and I don't know how I got into the meeting, but it was a work meeting with a lot of directors and principal engineers, and I was the only women data engineer there.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember that meeting because it's just the feeling I got when I sit there. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I see people at higher position up in leadership, but I don't see anybody who look like me or who
Mm-hmm.
talks like me. In
Mm-hmm.
a way, it feels like, hey, do I really fit in there? Can I really see myself, growing my career to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all this kind of perspective, and sometimes it feels like I don't fit in. And
Mm-hmm.
that's also one thing I do feels like why we need more women to talk about their career journey. We need more women talking about and also providing mentorship to the younger women, because
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly how what I needed when I was more junior, when I was a student. I want somebody to honestly just be there,
Yeah,
be
right.
a person, being a senior person, being a leader, showing us that, hey, I could be there too. And
Mm-hmm.
what's even more is like, if they can talk more about how they made it and all the struggles that I know that will be help me, that I'm experiencing, and that will give me more courage to
Right.
know that, hey, I can get there too. That's the one thing I feel like, I constantly thinking about, even now that when I'm creating content, is that I want to share more about what kind of frustrated me,
Mm-hmm.
my personal struggle along the way as I kind of pursue my career in data engineering. And I do see a lot of women there who want to be data engineers, and then I want to help them become successful too. And I want to let them know that, hey, if I can do it, then you can do it too.
Yeah, right. That is the exact motto of this initiative that I started. I wanted to put the faces and show it to the world that there is no difference between girls and boys, and there is no difference of mind. There is no difference of anything. The both can achieve the same amount of success, same amount of things. And I just wanted to bring people like you and the leaders who are really doing great, and show it to the girls that you can become like that. Don't be fearful, don't be afraid. There are girls who have made it, and they have made it to the top positions. You can always do that. Don't be fearful. And yeah, we do accept that this is industry is more male oriented or male dominated. That will be the one of the words. But there are girls who are able to do it. You can do it too. Don't lower your aspiration, and don't inspire to be do the small problem, or do a small don't inspire to only solve uh, what do you call, not a hard problem, very easy problem. Inspired to solve hard problems, and you will able to do that. So that is the right motto that I wanted to put to the world, and especially to the girls. And I think it will bring lots of courage to the girls who are just starting their career. I'm really thankful for having this conversation and having your time. So let's move to, I think we are already covering the times, but let's move to one of the interesting things that I've designed. That is the rapid fire round. So you don't have to be diplomatic for these questions. You just have to complete it within 30 seconds or on one and two lines. That's it. Okay.
All
So
right.
are we ready?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what's coming, but I'll do it.
Yeah, it's very simple. No need of worry. Okay. So let's start with. So will you please, let's suppose, given a chance to go back in time, what you will like to change uh, in yourself to be a better person or be a better person in the tech? What perspective you will like to change?
um, one perspective that I probably want to change is that I don't have to be extra aggressive or being the loudest person in the room to
Mm-hmm.
influence others.
Mm-hmm.
That's something at the early stage of my career, I feel like I need to speak louder
Mm-hmm.
because I naturally have a soft voice, and it feels like my voice not being heard
Mm-hmm.
when I speak with my own tone. But now I feel like we don't have to be the loudest person in the room to influence that, but also at the time, it's important that during a large meeting or a large group of people, we also build a skill to make sure that we get different opinions, not just focusing on people who are speaking the loudest.
Yeah. So which one is your favorite? Choose only one.
Okay.
Real time streaming or batch streaming?
Which one is my favorite? Oh God, this is a hard question. I will pick real-time streaming because it's the freshness of data unlocks so many data insights. However, that doesn't mean that it feels like batch is going away. Batch have a longer history, but I think that batch is as powerful as being able to enable data-driven decision making.
Okay, choose between one: Apache Flink or Spark streaming.
Apache Flink.
Okay. Next question, it's not technical. Work from home or work from office?
I would do hybrid.
So, Netflix shows or shows on Prime, Amazon Prime.
Origin.
This is the first time I'm listening someone who is saying that she's working in Netflix and she's saying Amazon Prime. Okay, cool. Let's move to the next things. Do you believe in data quality checks for every pipeline?
I think every data pipeline should have certain data checks, but maybe just like how details you go, how many you have them, would vary depending on the pipeline data itself.
Okay. So, which programming, according to you, will be most favorite in coming future? Scala, Python, or Rust in data engineering space?
I was thinking Scala.
Okay. So, PySparks or Apache Spark written in Scala?
Apache Spark written in Scala.
I don't know why, but whenever I talk to any person who is working with a good company, they are more favoring Apache Scala. I try to make people understand why do I like Apache Scala, Scala a lot instead of PySpark. And people do debate a lot that no, PySpark is really good. I'm like, okay, I love Scala.
The thing is, like, I also started using Spark using Python because I would say like it's an easier transition in a way because a lot of people who start using Panda, all that type of libraries, and also a lot of people start their first language in data is Python, right? So I would say that's an easier transition for people who want to pick up more distributed data processing, but also at the same time, with Spark in Scala, it's just general better support, better performance, and then that's where I also learn more about Scala and also using Scala with Spark.
Cool. So I know we have crossed our time. Just the last question before we cover up. As you see the coming age of ChatGPT and AI, do you think the data engineering jobs are going to be changed and people will people in data engineering jobs might lose their job?
So I think it depends. Like, I definitely don't think data engineering is going to go away because of ChatGPT. Because a lot of people's perception is that, oh, hey, if we have ChatGPT, then we can replace all the engineers, and that is not true. Because first of all, to train a model like that, you need to have some baseline data that is structured and clean and opinionated to train those data. And behind the scene, it is a lot of data engineers doing all those works and collecting those data and making it accessible, right? So that part is not could go away. And also at the same time, I feel like we have so much hype in AI these days that only means that there's going to be more demand in relevant jobs to support that effort. And behind the scenes, that includes data engineers. However, at the same time, I do think certain type of data engineering work or data work might be replaced, or in other words, I would say automated, because thinking through all the type of data engineering work I have done, or just like the work as part of my life, I do think there's a lot of ad hoc requests or like some of those questions I get from stakeholders. I think they could be automated. We could build more self-serve tools where they can just get those answers quickly through tooling based on top of ChatGPT. So I think that's a good thing because that means that we can focusing more on the engineering part of work and having a self-serve tool so that we save human time, right? And so that's the part I'm excited about. I think there's a lot, even more opportunities around there, and we can even build more tools, self-tools on top of it, so that data engineers are focusing on more building reliable and scalable data systems.
Right. So I was just discussing with one of my friend. We were having one intense discussion. So now I said that's okay. Take we can do from AI. But what about the conflict that we resolve? We people do forget that we are not that much techie. We are techie, but we do have the soft skills too. So we come into pictures when there is a conflict between stakeholders and other things. Who will resolve that conflict? There is still it will take a lot amount of time when the AI will be resolving the conflict. But for now, I think as you rightly mentioned, some of the jobs might be automated, but still any jobs like software engineer, data engineer, or data science will still be privileged. Yeah, I think we have come to the this talk. I'm really thankful for your precious time. We have taken more than 35 minutes of time, and this was really a good conversation. And I hope people, especially girls, will get inspired by your journey and will try to become like you and work with one of the greatest teams uh, in industry. Thank you, Bibul. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anchor. Thank you for having me. It's a really good time, and I'm looking forward to maybe coming to the show again or